Indonesia about the change of the capital. I don't know where the discussions are, where the actions are in there, but planning is an important point that is a lot informed by environmental assessments. I hope so. I'm not sure how it's doing, but I hope so. Then the design of policy instruments. Again, compensation schemes, as I said before. So this environmental assessment will allow us that, for example, if a wind farm is installed close to a village, it will recognize the impacts on the village and allow or help to design compensation schemes for the people in that area. So those are some examples of the decisions and policies that can be taken from the use of environmental assessments. So any questions until here? Before I come to how we integrate the ecosystem services into the decision making? Okay, if you have any question, just raise your hand or write in the chat, and then we go through that.
Okay, Claudia, sorry. I think someone is raising questions in the chat.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for letting me know, because I cannot see with the presentation mode, I cannot see anything. So
Okay.
yes, go ahead and either ask or write your.
Okay. Do you want me to read it, or you want to?
Okay. Wait a second. Let me see. If I can open it in here. Yes, I can open.
So I can read it for you, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, it's the same. I have it here. To what extent do current methodologies for cost-benefit analysis adequately capture the non-market values of environmental? To what extent the current methodology? Okay, cost-benefit analysis is not a methodology for environmental evaluation. It's two different things, okay? So for environmental evaluation, we have methodologies that I'm going to show some of them. I already mentioned some of them in the last lecture, and it's up to those methodologies to collect accurate data that will be included in cost-benefit analysis. The only thing we can say about methodologies on cost-benefit analysis is that they need to introduce these values. And they introduce that value just as an addition or a reduction. But in terms of methodology, these rely on methodologies of environmental evaluation, not methodologies of cost-benefit analysis, okay? So it's just an instrument to, and cost-benefit analysis, just take the information and put it in. That is, okay? Hope that answered the question. Thank you. Okay, if there are no more questions, if you have more questions, just feel free to pop it in the chat or just raise your hand. Okay,
Okay,
so
I will ask to you about the environmental assessment. I think that's in Indonesia. It is not a popular to assess the environmental, but we are using the terminology about the environmental audit, not environmental assessment. And the dinas or the office in the local government, especially in the dinas tata ruang or the special office in a local regional, not using environmental assessment, but using the environmental audit.
okay,
Because Indonesia have the policy about the special regulations to protect our environment, and then we zoning this spatial into the several zoning. for resident, for maybe foresting, for agriculture and so on. But
Mhm.
someday there are many spatial violation cure because of many motive, maybe economic or business. So with this case, the office of a spatial in local regional, using the spatial audits. There are many
Mhm.
spatial audit here, and I involving in this project, especially in economic audits, yeah, economic audits, and others expertise in environmental audits. Uh, in Indonesia, popular we not using environmental assessment, but using audit spatial.
Okay.
There are there are many kind of special audit here, and economic audit and also environmental audits. Yeah, and we have regulation from the Ministry of Spatial in Indonesia. What the guidance and to using to use to spatial audit in Indonesia. For example, how we audit the spatial using the economic audits and also environmental audits. Yeah, so to protect the environmental, yeah, and we base on the spatial regulation in Indonesia, and we have a zoning here. Yeah, so someday because of there are many violation occur in the spatial, so that's why local government related to the um, national government using the regulation how to protect the s- uh, the environmental using the special spatial approach. Sometimes we using environmental audits and also using the economic audits. Yeah, this is in Indonesia, Claudia.
Yes, yes. No,
Yeah,
it's
I involving in this project. Uh, conduct by the regional government in Yogyakarta to uh, to audit of spatial valuation using the economic theory here, and the
great.
person, yeah, the person using the environmental audit, and we have guideline how
Yeah,
to calculate.
that's
Yeah,
yeah. Every country will have the guideline. Now, we have to see like what an audit is. I hear they are audits, but audits is what is done after you conduct a environmental assessment. It's basically okay. You do that, and the audit check what has been done and make sure that that's right, or produce new. A new, let's say, suggestion on how to do this. And yes, it changed from country to country. So thank you very much for saying the way it is in Indonesia. This is the generic way that is in most places, but as you said, it's definitely different, and many times we have also different names. Like we have my experience working with government, local government in Chile as well. It's a bit of a different names as well. The concept is the same. What is done is the same. However, yes, it's not called environmental assessment, but it's another name as well that the government has given to it. The type of methodology that is followed is the same, but it's not the same name as well. And I see, yes, in Indonesia, and it has. And yes, there is always this very long list of how to conduct the audits or the assessments or for each of government. And sometimes it even varies from the local to the national government. Not sure in Indonesia, but in many countries, sometimes there are slight variations as well. So yeah, okay, so should I continue here? So now what I want to show is how to integrate, what is this system, which is from Daly, is quite well used in ecological economics, the system of the integration of the ecosystem services in the decision-making process. So in here we have generally an economy. Let me see. Yeah, can you see the cursor? What I am or not? I think last time I used which I cannot get now, a pen. Well, I cannot get it, never mind. Well, never mind. So we have here the economic activity. So different economic activities will produce outcomes, different outcomes, which is from a product to an externality. So these outcomes, let's just think about the environmental outcomes, which are externality, not necessarily negative. They can be positive or negative externalities. These outcomes will produce change in ecosystem services. When we have these changes in ecosystem services, there will be a lot of information that is generated in there. And that's the information we then start to take to produce the environmental assessments. So all this information then flows in the way that we have this important part here, which is the preferences and values. A lot of the information have come from markets. So we will have that, but it will be a bunch, a lot of other information that comes from non-market goods. And that is the question, if you remember from last lecture, so how we measure this? And it's when we come to environmental evaluation, and where the preferences and values have an important role. Preferences, that through the preferences is how we get the values of these non-market goods. So that is a process of generating even more information. And with all this sort of information, it goes to the policy institutions, government, NGOs, etc., that will make decisions. Within these this bottom part of this graph is where we have all the process of environmental assessment and environmental evaluation, and producing all this bunch of information that goes to the institutions, policy institutions. The policy institutions are those who then have to make the decisions and take this information to design policy and make a decision. So, for example, what type of project we are going to deliver, and what type of program we will give to the society, what type of compensation companies must give to individuals. And that's what we call incentives. Incentives are basically here. Incentives are basically this policy instrument. Policy instruments is the generation of incentives. I like taxes, subsidies, etc. And so these policies, decisions we make, or the policy institutions make, will again impact economy and the economic activity. For example, if you set a tax for a carbon tax, it will have an impact. Some companies will probably reduce their emissions, and that impact will be again an outcome that will change again ecosystem services, generate more information, and then you have this cycle that is ecological cycles from Daly. So, oh gosh, I cannot get now let me see. Here. on this information, and let's remind a bit what externalities was. When we have environmental degradation, economic activities generating environmental degradation, and generally other impacts. So now we jump from all this assessment to what we are introducing in there and how we are measuring this. So let's remember what externality is. So externalities are external effects. It's when the production or consumption decisions of one agent have an impact on the utility or profit of another agent in an unintended way, and that's important. It's an unintended way. And when there is no compensation or payment to the person or the agent who generate the impact from that person or that agent to the affected party. So when we have this external effect, totally independent, part of the economic activity, and is affecting a third party, and there is no compensation, no payment, then we have externalities. If you remember, we were talking about different types of externalities. So we have, and this is important, you recognize that externality is not always negative. We have from positive to negative externalities. I'm not gonna be talking about the types of externalities and examples here because we need to progress on the other part of the lecture. So, but again, as a part of that summary, negative externalities is when the action of one party imposes cost to another party, or when the impact on the bystander is adverse. How many of you can remember an example of externality, negative externality? If you can put it in the chat. I mean, what type of negative externalities you can identify from any type of project? Just examples of externalities, negative externalities. So write it in the chat. You don't have to explain, just 1, 2 words.
Okay, is there anyone?
You can, I mean, you can use your language as well. You don't have to use English.
Yeah, I can help to translate it for Claudia, don't worry.
Yes.
Anyone who wants to open your microphone and try to answer it?
It's a very, very easy question. Negative
Yes.
externality. For a negative impact, remember, it's externalities, external effect or impact. Tell me any negative impact
okay.
of a project.
I know everyone can answer it, but do not be shy to open your microphone or writing in a chat. Please, do you want to try it, Alpha Z or Cynthia? Or again, no file. We also have no file here. Anyone?
When I am there, guys, I'm gonna ask you directly.
Otherwise, yes.
So start training now. Okay,
Oh, okay. Someone is from Istikoma.
Okay, Istikoma, very, very good. Noise consumption, no, noise only. Noise, or noise production. Very good. Well done. Okay, noise
Great,
is
Istikoma.
actually while I am lecturing to you, while I'm teaching now, my neighbor has the music full volume, and that's an externality. That's a negative externality, because I'm teaching to you, I'm working here, but my neighbor is with the music full volume, which is annoying. So yeah, well, let's continue. So yes, negative externalities for like those you have here are air pollution, water pollution, congestions, or air pollution from cars as well. As I said last lecture, remember the example of energy production with large dams, which is a negative externality to landscape. It has a negative landscape intrusion. So, and there are a lot of other examples of negative externalities. As you said there, noise is another one. So then that is negative externality. I'm not going to use in these specific lectures positive externalities, but you need to, I want to make sure that you know that externalities can also be positive. And positive externalities are when the action of one party benefit another party. And when the impact on the bystander is beneficial. So basically, when we have a benefit for a third party, when a project produces a benefit for a third party. So you know that also we can have a positive externality. And these positive externalities can also be included in environmental assessments, through payments, through income sometimes, etc. So what is the problem then? And we slightly mentioned this last lecture. When we have a market, it's very easy to get the values of those externalities. For example, water pollution that is affecting fish in a river, easy. We know the value of the fish, easy but limited, okay? We know that the fish has a value in the market, so we can calculate the impact that pollution had on the fisheries and multiply by the cost or the price of the fish. So when we have markets, fine. The problem is when we don't have the market, which is many environmental situations. Water quality, what is the price of clean air? What is the price of biodiversity? So if we have an impact, for example, what I have been doing in marine ecosystems. So there are projects or tourism affecting marine ecosystems. What is the value of the biodiversity that is affected? What is the value of the sharks, of turtles? That is more difficult to know. There is no market for them. Well, we can get some black markets, but we won't get into that. And so what is the value of those elements? So markets, as I said here, does not always provide the direct information regarding the value society places on changes in the provision of environmental goods and services. And that's why here we have a big challenge. So how we get those value and how we integrate the nature and its value in everyday decisions and in complete social environmental assessments. So that is the important part. So and it's a challenge. So how we measure them, and then how we integrate this in these everyday decisions for social environmental assessment. Or in the case of Indonesia, from what you have said on the audits, okay? So and that is when we use environmental evaluation. So we don't have time here to do a full lecture of environmental evaluation. I mean, that will take at least a couple of sessions or even more, but just I give you just a very little information on the different measures and methodologies, and then we see how we can use those in cost-benefit analysis. So environmental evaluation is to assign monetary values to environmental impacts, especially non-market impacts. So is put a value into those impacts. So for example, what you're gonna see here as well, but let me give you another example. For example, what I was saying, the tourism, increasing tourism. I work a lot in the Galapagos Island, which is some islands with very, very rich biodiversity in the Pacific Sea. So how we put values on turtles. So the way we put the value is through asking people the benefits and what is the willingness to pay they will have for those. So that is one of the examples. Then we can have a lot of examples in terms of energy, and then other agriculture as well, the use of pesticides, or the overuse of the land will have externalities that we need to measure. Why we do this environmental evaluation and why it's needed? As I said, this is also a reminder from last time. The main motivation is to do cost-benefit analysis, and that's why I put this slide here again. So to remind you that we need this for this cost-benefit analysis, actually social cost-benefit analysis and social environmental assessment. To design policy instruments and compensation schemes. Compensation scheme is also seen as a type of policy instrument, and to introduce environmental values in national accounting. The national accounting discussion came into the economies a lot 2 decades ago, and it vanished. But since just a few years, it's taken again a bit of power, and many countries are going into this national accounting, because they say that the GDP, so the GDP of a country shouldn't just be, all that we have about the incomes and outcomes, and it should also include environmental capital. But they don't include environmental capital because it's very difficult to measure. So that's where environmental evaluation would have a contribution. So to include those values for natural capital into the national accounting, because places such as Brazil, for example, with the Amazon, it could have a very low GDP. However, the value they have with the Amazon in natural capital is big. So it is there the discussion on we should include those values in our national accounting and be part of also this, they don't call it GDP properly, but this new type of measure growth as well, and environmental and economic development. So techniques in which we do this environmental evaluation, I'm going to only mention them. We don't have the time to explain how they work, etc. But we have 2 types of techniques: the revealed preferences and the stated preferences, as you can see here. The revealed preferences is the type of methodology that only estimates use value and is based on observed behavior. So it's a direct method. What you observe. For example, the two techniques in here are the travel cost and hedonic prices. Example, you want to value the beauty of a national park, then people, you will conduct surveys, people who go to that national park, and you ask them through the travel cost, how much you spend in petrol, hotel, food, and all the other expenses to go to that national park. So that will give you an indication of how much they value that ecosystem service or that environmental good. With hedonic price is another type of methodology that another typical example is the change in price in property. So if you have an area where an industry came and started to pollute the air, the price of the property in that area most likely went down from the time the industry went. So you can calculate with the hedonic price the difference in the price with the intervention. So how much the price dropped. So that is an indication of the value of the externality. So that is revealed preference. So it's direct. It's based on observed behavior. Then we have stated preferences, where this relies on hypothetical scenarios. And in this case, we estimate use and non-use values through surveys, and where we ask people, how much are you willing to pay? Or how much are you willing to accept? How much are you willing to pay for improving environmental quality or for avoid degradation? Two techniques we have in here, they are the main techniques, there are a lot of others that are developed, is contingent valuation and choice experiments. I'm just gonna stop in there in order to time so we can get to the example. So what I want to show you now is the example of, okay, we take these techniques or these methodologies and how we gather values to input in cost-benefit analysis and how we do that. So the example comes from research I conducted in Chile on hydropower developments in Patagonia. Many developing countries, and Chile is not anymore, but at the time I was conducting this research, Chile was considered one of, Chile was not in the OECD and was considered one of the other countries. They are characterized for the few developments of renewable energy projects. There are no green tariffs in there that will allow green technology to be deployed, and there are few incentives to develop any other technologies. But these countries need to fulfill environmental national goals. So these countries, and this is the typical example of many countries, the energy demand is increasing, and the cheapest and easiest to continue generating that demand, that energy, with coal, petrol, etc., which is not sustainable. But the countries need to fulfill these environmental goals that they signed in the COP, in the Paris Agreement, etc. So the principal barriers that is always said is that the renewable is very expensive. The cost of this is much higher than the others. But here is the question: does that cost include the cost of the externalities? So, as you can see here, the renewable is the blue one. Generally, the cost would be higher than the TA is thermoelectric, RE is renewables. So what happens if we actually include the cost of externality from the thermoelectric, from fossil fuels. Would that cost of renewables still be more expensive? Would be probably the same, or it could probably be lower. And then renewables will be or will become a competitive energy source. So that is something that we need to value. So what happens, and for that we use then environmental evaluation. So let me put you in context, and this is again an example to show you how to conduct this. For Chile, in that time, there were three alternatives of energy generation. One was fossil fuel using coal. Here I can, let me give me a second. Okay, I learned something now. One is use fossil fuels with oil, coal, and gas. Then they could use hydropower with large dams, as the one I showed you before, in a place called Chilean Patagonia, which is a very pristine and natural place, or renewable energy with wind, solar, and biomass. So, okay, now oops. Okay, there it is. So I'm gonna focus here in that part, in the trade-off between renewable and hydropower, because of the time. Just to put you in the context, the Chilean Patagonia is a very pristine place, natural place, untouched, that has cultivated lands, wetlands, primitive territories. It has important cattle farming, agricultural, tourist areas, biodiversity conservation zones, etc. You can see some pictures in here. So the first thing you do is let's identify the externalities. So what are the externalities of all the options? So for hydropower, the externality would be the installation of a network of pylons crossing Patagonia lands, which have a high value in landscape and tourism. So we have the landscape intrusion with that, and also the visual landscape intrusion in terms of the construction of the big walls and dams itself. The resettlement of indigenous communities and local people as well. That's another impact or externality. So yes, and then we can actually make a very big list of everything. But the important thing is, the first thing is identify those externalities, because you are going to use them to create the scenarios that from which you will get the value. So what is then what you do? We analyze the willingness to pay from households for generating the electricity using renewables, which is more expensive than traditional hydropower or fossil fuels. But this is in order to avoid the environmental and social impact that these typical hydropower or fossil fuels produce. So what we're doing here is a contingent valuation. Let's analyze the willingness to pay to avoid the impacts of this hydropower. So how you do that? We generate a survey where we put the scenario explaining these things, and we do personal interviews face-to-face to households in the main cities. What the Patagonia is in this area, guys. So everything will be produced here, but not a single kilowatt will remain there. All this electricity will go to these two main cities. Therefore, we ask in these cities, because they are those that are benefited, but all the impacts will be in this area. So who we ask the responsible of paying the electricity bill. So in the household. And we do a stratification of the city and a random selection of the street and houses. All this process is very long in terms of design. This is a very quick explanation, really. So we conduct this contingent evaluation where we do a scenario in which we describe the energy situation, the hydropower project and the impact, the renewable energy project and their impact. I'm not going to say fossil fuels because I'm not including that in this example. And then how we build that with attitudinal question. We do a survey. We design a questionnaire to conduct the survey. That includes attitudinal question, the scenario, the background question, and some questions.
Excuse me, Claudia. Excuse me.
Yes.
About the hydropower at the Chilean. Yes. This project built by the government, by states, or by the private sector?
Private sector.
Oh, because in Indonesia, I think for the big project like hydropower and also micro hydro, yeah, usually built by the government as the obligation to the community, because energy is a basic need for the community. So
Yes.
Will finance by the government financing, not financed by the private sector.
Yeah.
And usually for the micro hydro project, for example, in many places in Indonesia, that's built by the local government and also joined with the central government, usually on grid system. So the electricity produced by the micro hydro or the mini hydro then sell to the PLN. PLN is a company producer of electricity, and then by the PLN distribute to the community. And usually for the micro hydro project, to fulfill the energy and the remote area. So that's why the government then give the subsidy for this project and financed by the government. And then using the on-grid system, not off-grid system.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I don't know about the hydropower at the Zealand. If it is built by the private sector, so in Indonesia there are many private sector of the electricity plant, of the power plant. For example, IPP. IPP is an independent power plant. There are many IPP in Indonesia, but the electricity produced by the IPP then bought by the PLN, then sell to the PLN, and then PLN as the one of the electricity producer in Indonesia, and as monopoly in electricity service, then distribute to the company. There are many level of economic distribute to the society. There are many level of society in Indonesia. A pure commodity that this community have uh, there are obligation the obligation to the government to subsidize this community. So uh, I think it is a good that energy then managed by the private sector,
yeah,
because
it is.
energy is the basic needs to the community. So in Indonesia, by the UD 45, by the law, the main law in Indonesia, energy is basic needs. This is obligation for the state, for the government to distribute to the community.
Yes, this is something that is very special for Chile, and explaining this will need quite a lot because it's a lot related to political situation and the dictatorship that Chile had in the very past. So the rights of the water was given for free to certain people. I'm not gonna get into the details in a public lecture, but yes, basically it's private. The company was sold years ago during the dictatorship to a or given, not sold, sorry, it was given to a private company, which was a monopoly. Therefore, all these projects were handled by privates. Unfortunately,
Okay. One questions for the in Chile. Who the people targeted for this project? Poor community? What the community targeted in this project in Chile?
well,
This is poor community.
it was all. I mean, the thing is, the electricity, as I said before, in this part, if you see in this part, the electricity would
Yes,
be
but
produced
what
here
for whom? What the
for
community targeted? Yeah, what the community
the
targeted
main
for
cities,
this project?
the main cities, the capital,
Oh,
Santiago,
in the capital, in the city,
in the
not in
cities.
remote area.
No, no.
Really, really?
Yes, yes, it is. It is a very. I don't want to make normative, but it's a very unfair thing. Like the place where it's produced is a community, a lot of poor communities. The area in Chile where the electricity is the most expensive in the country. However, they won't receive a single pound or a single cent for, or they won't receive a single kilowatt. Everything will be translated directly to main cities. And yes, we can spend a lot of time discussing about the fairness of this. And that's why it is an interesting type of work here, because a lot of people and companies were trying to introduce renewables, but the company has a lot of power that could go against renewables, and they were pushing very hard for these projects in which, you know, all these areas, these natural areas will be basically impacted. All these areas will be impacted, and all the benefits, economic benefit, will go to privates. All the benefit in terms of energy will go to the cities. There will be almost no benefit for communities. No benefit for the people with the lowest income. The only benefit would be that they will have probably some energy, which they will have to pay at a high price anyway. So yes, that is the system, and it's because Chile privatized the rivers. It sounds really strange. It's probably only one or two countries in the world have their rivers private. It's a public good. Rivers, water is a public good, except for Chile due to the benefits this dictatorship gave
Okay.
to.
Yes. Excuse me. This is the hydropower project in Chile.
Yeah,
Because hydropower project, it's a big scale
yes, very
or the
big.
small or the small capacity. It is a big capacity.
Yeah, I mean, the one I am presenting today It's a very large scale. It's the largest
Okay,
in the country.
so what the kind of fuel to uh uh to generate the turbine here?
So,
If still using the fuel, it is not
oh,
pure renewable energy, right?
yeah, but that's another
Because this is a
discussion. Yeah.
hydropower project. I think the capacity is a big, so not possible using the pure renewable energy. But I think using the fuel to uh, uh, to generate the turbine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
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 Sorry, Bu Lilis.
Yeah.
Since we only have a very compact time, an
Uh-huh.
hours, and Claudia might be also have another meetings. So would you mind let us listen to Claudia a session first, and then we can have the session question Q&A, since I think we only have a 1.5 hours, and I'm afraid that she also
Okay.
have another slides, but nevertheless, might be we can manage the time because I'm
Yeah,
just
let me
afraid that yeah.
let me continue so I get at least I mean what I really want to show students is the part of how to introduce this in cost benefit analysis. So let me
Okay,
get there.
okay, please.
Yeah. So okay, guys. So what we do here. So the first thing is when we conduct this environmental evaluation is to see if we actually can use those values. The first thing is to see if our sample is representative from the population. So we just calculate the very easy and descriptive statistics. So in this project, we have here, I calculated how many females, age of the respondents, the years of education, and some other households characteristics from number of children, members, how much they pay for the electricity bill, and other things. So I take these values and compare with the population values. And that is not just comparing if they are similar or not, but using statistics. So in this case, for my study, there are no significant differences between them except for the gender, in which we got more women than those that are head of households in the census. But in this case, this wouldn't affect really the applicability of the results because if you go in Chile, and I think in Indonesia would be very similar, and you ask who is the head of the household, they will always say the man. However, many times it's the woman who pays from the bills, who is taking care of the housing things. So the relevant person is actually probably the woman. So that's why we got more women answering our than what we have in the census. Different types of populations, but you still need to conduct the statistics. So now that we know that our data, our sample is representative in all the others, households, characteristics, years of education, etc., we ask some attitudinal question to see where we go in terms of social acceptability and what the communities or people want. So we ask people what is their preferred source of future energy generation. And look at the results. They say that they prefer solar power and wind power. So without doing any type of evaluation, we know just from this basic statistic that the people would like some renewables over any other source. What is what they least prefer? Oil and coal. So yes, the fossil fuels is the least preferred, and hydropower somewhere in between, but it's way less preferred than the renewables. So without knowing anything, we can guess that they will be willing to pay something and there will be a value. So we also ask different type of knowledge questions, which is important to understand results. And I will show you one, especially one of the main results we get that was quite controversial, that if we wouldn't have this information, we wouldn't be able to explain. So in this table, just I only will ask you to look at this. People who have visited the area that where this hydropower will be is only almost 10% of all the sample. Very little. Only 10% of our respondents have been in that area. What happened? That is a touristic, natural, and beautiful area, but it's very expensive for locals to go there. Very expensive for locals. So if you go there, you probably go once in your life. And you go and have your time there, and then that is, okay? So it's not a place that you will visit several times. Okay, so you conduct your valuation in the way I told you. You ask willingness to pay of people to avoid the hydropower externalities and to go for renewables. And then you take all that information and you put into the econometric model. Here we estimate a logit model with some covariates. I'm not going to analyze each of these coefficients because I don't think we have enough time. I just want you to show you how to put it in the cost-benefit analysis. But why I say like this socioeconomic information is important, because between these results we got, we have, for example, that people who plan to visit the area is willing to pay more to support renewables, but those who visited the area is willing to pay less. And so we're like, oh, wow, if you went to the area, you're willing to pay less. What's happened? And there was a lot of controversy on these results. And thanks to that other information, that allows us to show that this is because it's a place that people will go once in their life. So if you go only once, you know that you are not gonna go back. So you basically care less about what happened with the area. When people have not been there, you will say like, oh, wait. I'm willing to pay more, but please don't destroy the area. So that's why we get these results. The rest, just in a very quick summary, there is no effect in gender. Younger people are willing to pay more for renewables, more educated people and people with more income. This is all significant, and these people are willing to pay more for supporting renewables and avoiding the impact of large dams. So, well, we use this information, all this information from this covariate and estimate, and we calculate the willingness to pay, which is this amount. This is in Chilean pesos. This is the amount we get for the willingness to pay to avoid, this is a monthly payment in the electricity bill to avoid building this large dam and to go for renewables. What is this? This is, and I always ask, what is this? And people tell me, oh, it's the willingness to pay. No. So we have done that to see how much you value. So this is the value you give to the impact of hydropower, okay? This is the value of that. So what we do then, we take this value, remember, this is monthly for 20 years, I forgot to say that, for 20 years monthly in your electricity bill, and it's an extra amount over your fixed price, fixed charge of your electricity bill. So what you do, let's use this result. You get that result, and generally the papers just stop there. Valuation papers stop there. So no, let's use these results to conduct a social cost benefit analysis. So you aggregate that with your full population. All your population would be those connected to the grid. Then you need to know what is the period, which is 20 years in this case. And what you need is the discount rate or the interest rate, because what you will need to do is to calculate a NPV, a net present value, for all that time. It seems that someone has the micro on. I can hear some noise there. So, anyway, so you get that data, and then you calculate an NPV. What you need to calculate the present value with the relevant information, and you need the cost of the project. So this willingness to pay and this net present value will be your willingness to pay premium and the evaluation of the externality. So what we did, we asked the government what are the scenarios, the real scenarios. I'm not sure who else. It seems that someone has the microphone on. I can hear some noise, but I don't know. Okay, well, never mind. So yes, so we found from the government, these are the potential projects that Chile was going to develop. So we have, let's just look at the scenario one, because it's what we will have time. The scenario one is to build 90% of wind, 9% of biomass, and 1% of solar, while the scenario four, it is to build 80% of wind, 9% of biomass, 1% of solar, and we introduce geothermal here. So what we do, what we need the cost of this project. So as you can see here, let's see a scenario one only. The cost of non-renewables is over $5,000 million, and the cost of the large dams is about 4.7 million. On a financial cost benefit analysis, what is the one cheaper? The large dam. So you probably, if you only consider financial, this is cheaper. You see, this is cheaper than this. However, we want to introduce a social cost benefit analysis to make decisions here on what the country will go for. So we have the evaluation, we have done this evaluation. We know now what is the value of the externalities of the large dams. And we calculated it with the net present value for 20 years, okay? Using a discount rate of 10%, and we have that the value of the externalities is 3.4 thousand million of US dollar. So what we do? So we take this value and we introduce on the cost benefit analysis. So we will have now this. So how we do that? We calculate the total cost of the dams, which is the 4.7 thousand, the cost of the large dam, but now we add the cost of the externalities, which is this number we calculated with environmental valuation. So now we can say that the total cost of the dams is over 8,000 millions of dollars. What is the cost of the renewables is 5,000. So now we can make a decision. We can see that renewables are actually competitive, and their cost, considering environmental externalities, is actually lower than the large dams. If you see in the other scenario, in the fourth scenario, we do exactly the same. You can do the same for second and third scenario. 4,000, but plus this is over 8,000. But the cost, if we introduce geothermal power, is 9,000. So it's still higher than the large dams. So we and the government wouldn't be able to actually do that because it's still, or it's not that it's not wouldn't be able. I mean, the decision based on a cost benefit analysis would be that it's more costly if we use a large dams. So in that way, we introduce these values into cost benefit analysis. And in honor of time, I'm just gonna stop there, because from this, what we can do now, and let me just tell you in 1-2 minutes, is to design policy instruments. So we use this information for the design of policy instrument and inform the government and companies the assessments, to provide the guidelines to assess the projects and make strategic decisions. Some of the potential instruments that, for this example, we can design is environmental premiums to households. So if the project is done, you will know how much is the compensation to give, or the subsidies we should give to those households that are impacted. And then the thing is, not all this willingness to pay is needed to be charged, but we only charge the difference in the cost. I mean, I can just talk a bit more then probably in the future when I am there, on how to calculate that for designing policy instruments. So basically using this information, okay, let me just show you very quickly. Using the information, you just need this difference. And this is what actually you will charge to households, or what the companies will have to compensate if it is a compensation scheme. So the takeaway, so the social cost benefit analysis includes the value of externalities, and conclusions could be different from a typical cost benefit analysis or financial cost benefit analysis, as I showed you here. And here, the environmental valuation techniques play a key role in contributing to complete this type of assessment. And they inform in a very valuable way policymakers. So yeah, let me stop here, because I know we are so we have a few minutes for some questions.
Okay, really sorry that we only limited time, but I would like to give the time for the students if you have any questions. You can just write down in the chat if you don't want to open your microphone. Okay, Naufal, Atta, you can open your microphone, please.
Yes. Am I audible, ma'am?
Okay,
Okay.
please. Yeah.
Thank you for the chance for asking what I thought. I'm still wondering about the type, the type of social cost benefit analysis. I mean, why when uh, there is geothermal that apply 10% to the project, the cost is very high. Uh, can you provide more explanation about that? This because I still don't understand about that.
I mean, wait, can you please repeat the cost of what is very high? I just missed you.
So in the table results of WTP present value and investment cost. There is a cost of non-conventional RES, and when in the third scenario, for scenario 1, scenario 2, and in the scenario 3, there is no geothermal energy that apply to the project. But why after there is 10% geothermal usage or geothermal installation, the cost is very high, different than the previous three. The previous three uh, have, yeah,
Yes.
5,000, 6,000,
Yeah.
and the last 9,000.
Yeah, it's the cost of technology. This is a reflection of the cost of technology. So basically, and this is real cost, okay? The cost that we had for wind power, the technology, biomass, and solar are way smaller, but the geothermal investment cost is very high. So that's what brings this number very, very high. So, and that's real cost. This cost varies from country to country, of course. Chile is a very mountaineering country, and so it's very expensive to build a geothermal power station. So that is basically the cost of investment of building it. It was very high. And that's why, because this cost is so high, even when you take into account the externalities, the cost of renewables is still higher than building large dams.
Okay, hopefully no fall.
Thank you,
Can
ma'am,
you?
for your explanation. But I'm still wondering, is there any further breakdown from scenario, the first scenario, second scenario? So maybe after this, yeah, we can maybe have time to analyze or explain further, because yeah, this is very interesting. But on the other side, it is I'm still wondering about the formula and also the etc. about the table.
It's important to say that this is not this thing that you see here, the scenarios, is not something that we invented, or it's not something, this is something that the government had. So we took the planning, the governmental planning for renewable energy in Chile, okay? So, and then we could simulate different scenarios. So you basically put these percentages as a simulation exercise. So first of all, we ask if the government, if we, this is why this is very important to work together with government and industry. Which is your plan? If we go for renewable, what is your plan? And the plan for Chile was using only wind, biomass, and solar. We introduced geothermal. It was not in the plan of the government. And we introduced it just to inform the government how what would be the impact. So, and the plan for the government was, and this is something that was in their registry, was, okay, we have 90% of projects in biomass, and 9%, and wind, 9% of biomass, 1%, and so, and then this number of large dam scenario is not a number we came with. This was given to us by the hydropower company. This is not a value we could, it's a value that engineers and the company estimate. The cost of the non-renewables, this cost here is a cost that also comes from the industry. It's not a cost that we calculate. This is the cost of the investment. And so this is a cost that we are given. This is the easy part, as I said, of the cost benefit analysis, because this cost is given by the industry. This cost is given by industry as well. The difficult part is this, the calculation. This is what we calculate, and this is what we introduce, which comes from, and again, I mean, this is a full course to teach you how to calculate this. This is a semester course, really, on how to calculate this. This comes from this. So from the result of the surveys, you estimate an econometric model. From this econometric model, then you calculate with using the coefficient this value. From this value, you then aggregate and aggregate it, calculate NPV and net present value, and that's how you actually get to that value. Which again, I mean, just teaching you how to get that value will take me one semester, really. But that is explanation. So our part as economists in a social economic cost benefit analysis is bringing this number to take the decisions I just explained. I hope that makes it a bit clearer.
Okay, ma'am, thank you for your clear explanation. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Naufal. Thank you, Claudia. I'm really sorry that we really have a very limited time, since in Indonesia, we also, right now, we are in the time of, we do have to get maghrib, our praying time, evening praying
Yes.
time. So we do not want to disturb your individual and privacy to have the praying time in maghrib. So really sorry that we trying to compact our time, but nevertheless, we will have Claudia, as just to remind you, we will have Claudia shortly in Indonesia. We will meet her offline, inshallah, on next month, right? On May, between May and to June.
And you.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.